The US government has formally asked for a partial breakup of Google. The Department of Justice is urging a federal judge to force the company to sell its Chrome web browser. In August, after a years-long trial, a federal court ruled the tech giant is running an illegal monopoly. The judge said the company had violated US antitrust laws by requiring smartphone makers to install it as the default search engine. Google has promised to appeal. If approved, the penalties could have major implications for other big tech firms like Apple, Amazon, and Meta. Lee Hepner is an antitrust lawyer and senior legal counsel for the American Economic Liberties Project. Joins me now from San Francisco in the US. Good to have you with us. So first of all, is Google on the verge of some degree of breakup?
Yeah, well, I think what we saw filed this evening is the Justice Department's proposed final judgment. That will still need to be countered by Google, and the court will have a hearing about it and ultimately approve some version of it. So we're a few steps away, but certainly this is a huge step in that direction and a really significant development in a case that we've been following for the better part of a decade.
What would it mean for the search engine industry?
I think we would begin to see a lot more innovation starting to occur across that space. Certainly this case was about how Google had foreclosed access to key distribution channels. Just as, a good reaches you through the delivery, Android and Chrome were key distribution channels for Google search. Apple was a key distribution channel for Google search. You see YouTube implicated here, device manufacturers, other browsers. All of those search access points are going to be opened up to competition for other more innovative, different types of search engines. I think as we see artificial intelligence begin to change how people find information online, we're going to see a lot more openness there as well.
Listening to you, it sounds like you feel that Google was engaging in some kind of favoritism to support its businesses or the business of its partners.
Certainly, and I'm not alone in that. This has moved beyond the phase of allegations. A federal court, in fact, two federal courts have determined that Google has illegally maintained monopolies across various business lines, including the search market, search advertising, the distribution of apps on Android phones. So Google is unequivocally a monopolist that has really choked off competition and innovation in these spaces. So I'm actually optimistic that the path forward sees an unwinding of that monopoly grip.
All right, interesting. What about the question of whether Google has been politicized, and what would a breakup mean for, if we can call it, the narrative on certain sensitive issues?
Sure. I don't think that this is a partisan issue or a politicized issue. Certainly anything in the news is going to be framed that way. The fact of the matter is that for over a decade, Google has maintained an over 90% share of the search engine market. That is a durable monopoly, and that is not a political fact. That is how the market has been structured by Google and its various business lines. It has amassed extraordinary revenue. It profits handsomely off its monopoly while depriving revenue streams.
My question is more the complaints you hear from some pundits that if you Google Donald Trump or you Google a certain figure, that the type of information you get is very slanted. Would a breakup of Google provide us with more diversity in terms of the narrative on certain issues or not, do you think?
I think that's one of the metrics across which you'll see some innovation, how search results appear in a search engine. So yes, there might be a sort of political element to that. There's a market element to that. There's the phenomenon of paid ad search results on top of a search page. All of that is where you're going to start seeing some differentiation between browsers. So certainly that's possible.
All right. And what does this then mean for Google's relationship with Apple?
Well, one of the facts that emerged during this trial is that Google has had an exclusive placement across every single Apple device for the better part of a decade or longer. It pays over $20 billion to maintain that contract. That is a core distribution channel. Some might argue it's the most important contract controlling how information flows across the internet. The proposal that we're seeing from the Justice Department calls for an end to that contract, so Google would no longer be able to lock up the search engine market on Apple iPhones. That would open that access point up to potentially other search engines. That might cause Apple to develop and roll out its own search engine, which is something that was rumored to be in development a decade ago, right before it entered into this arrangement with Google. So I think we're going to start seeing a big shakeup between Google and Apple as well.
All right, thank you so much. Good to have your thoughts. Lee Hepner there from the American Economic Liberties Project.
Pleasure to be here.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.